Christmas in the 1950s was the golden age of American consumerism meeting holiday tradition. With World War II behind them, a booming economy, and growing suburban families, Americans had the money and the enthusiasm to make Christmas magical. The decade introduced an explosion of new products, decorations, and traditions that were uniquely American and unmistakably 50s. Department stores competed with elaborate, animated window displays that drew crowds downtown. Families gathered around new television sets to watch Christmas specials, while suburban neighbors competed to have the most festive house on the block. From aluminum trees with rotating color wheels to bubble lights, the decorations were flashy, ambitious, and sometimes dangerous. Gifts range from practical and desirable, like Christmas Club checks and canned hams, to wild and surprising, including coonskin caps, cigarettes and stockings, and Christmas corsages. Some practices that seemed normal at the time, using lead tinsel, unsafe outdoor lights, or giving tobacco to teens, would be considered shocking today. Looking back, the 50s combined ingenuity, optimism, and a flair for spectacle. Families created unforgettable memories, navigating both the magic and the madness of the holiday season. Here are 20 weird and wonderful facts about Christmas in the 1950s that capture the era's unique charm and quirks. Fact 1. Aluminum Christmas trees were the height of fashion. If you wanted to be on the cutting edge of Christmas decorating in the 1950s, you absolutely needed an aluminum Christmas tree. These shiny metallic trees first appeared in 1958 and quickly became the must-have decoration for modern American families. The Aluminum Specialty Company in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, started producing these space-age trees, and they flew off the shelves. The trees came in silver, pink, blue, and even gold, reflecting the atomic age obsession with all things modern and metallic. The problem was that these aluminum trees were actually pretty dangerous. You couldn't put electric lights on them because the metal branches could conduct electricity and potentially electrocute anyone who touched the tree. This didn't stop families from buying them though. Instead, people used rotating color wheels with spotlights that would shine different colored lights on the tree as it spun. The trees themselves were made of aluminum foil wrapped around wire, and they came in a box that you had to assemble branch by branch, kind of like putting together the world's shiniest and most dangerous puzzle. Despite the safety concerns, aluminum trees became so popular that by the early 1960s, they were outselling real trees in some parts of the country. They were seen as clean, modern, and perfect for the space-age family. No pine needles to vacuum up, no watering required, and they could be used year after year. But the trend died almost overnight in 1965 after the Charlie Brown Christmas special aired and featured a scene mocking artificial trees. Suddenly, aluminum trees went from fashionable to tacky, and families quickly returned to real trees. If you grew up with one of these metallic monstrosities in your living room, you probably remember how they looked absolutely nothing like an actual tree. Fact 2. Bubble lights were a fire hazard. Everyone loved. One of the most iconic Christmas decorations of the 1950s was bubble lights. These mesmerizing lights featured a liquid-filled tube with a light bulb at the base that would heat up the liquid and make it bubble continuously. They were invented by Carl Otis in 1946, but they really took off during the 1950s when they became the hottest Christmas decoration on the market. Every kid was absolutely hypnotized watching those bubbles rise and fall, and having a set of bubble lights on your tree meant your family was keeping up with the latest trends. The liquid inside these lights was typically methylene chloride, a chemical that would boil at a relatively low temperature when heated by the small bulb at the base. The bubbling effect was created as this liquid vaporized and then condensed as it rose through the tube. It looked magical, but these lights were actually a significant fire hazard. They got extremely hot, and if they tipped over or the liquid leaked, they could easily start a fire. The bulbs also had a tendency to explode if they got too hot, or if the liquid evaporated completely. Despite the dangers, bubble lights remained incredibly popular throughout the entire decade. Families would string them around their trees, and kids would spend hours just staring at the mesmerizing bubbling effect. They came in multiple colors, with red and green being the most popular. But you could also find blue, yellow, and even clear versions. The lights were relatively expensive compared to regular Christmas lights, but they were worth it for the wow factor they provided. If your family had bubble lights on the tree, you were were definitely the envy of the neighborhood, even if your parents were risking burning the house down just to have them. Fact 3. Flocking your tree was a dangerous DIY project. Flocking a Christmas tree to make it look like it was covered in fresh snow became hugely popular during the 1950s. The snowy white coating gave trees that perfect winter wonderland look that everyone wanted in their living room. What most people didn't know was that the flocking material used during this time was often made with asbestos. That's right, the same material we now know causes serious lung problems, and cancer was being sprayed all over Christmas trees in homes across America. The flocking kits you could buy at the store came with a pump sprayer and a mixture that included adhesive and the white flocking material. Families would spread newspapers on the floor, set up their tree, and spend an afternoon coating every branch with this toxic snow. The process created clouds of fine particles floating through the air that everyone breathed in, including children who were usually helping with the decorating. Some kits also use ground-up asbestos mixed with soap to create a paste that could be applied to branches. Even beyond the asbestos concern, flock trees were messy and difficult to maintain. The flocking would shed constantly, leaving a trail of white particles all over the floor that would get tracked throughout the house. If you had pets, they would inevitably rub against the tree and end up looking like they'd rolled in snow. And good luck trying to store a flock tree for next year because the material would dry out, crack, and fall off in chunks. But despite all these issues, flock trees were everywhere during the 50s because they looked absolutely beautiful in those carefully staged family photos that everyone was taking with their new cameras. The sparkle of the flocking under the Christmas lights created a magical effect that made the health risks seem worth it at the time. Fact 4. Department store. Santa's smoked cigarettes. If you visited Santa at the department store during the 1950s, there was a pretty good chance you'd smell cigarette smoke on his beard. Many department store Santas would take smoke breaks while still in costume, and some even kept cigarettes in their Santa suit pockets. This was completely acceptable at the time because smoking was everywhere, and nobody thought twice about Santa Claus having a lucky strike between visits with children. Department stores hired hundreds of seasonal Santas during the Christmas rush, and these jobs weren't exactly glamorous. The men would sit in hot, heavy costumes for hours on end, while kids climbed all over them, cried, pulled their beards, and made all sorts of demands for toys. Taking a cigarette break was seen as a reasonable way for these Santas to cope with the stress of the job. Some stores even had designated Santa break rooms where multiple Santas would gather to smoke and complain about difficult children. The smoking Santa wasn't limited to just break time either. Some newspaper advertisements from the era actually featured Santa Claus holding or smoking cigarettes, promoting them as a great Christmas gift. Tobacco companies had no shame about using Christmas imagery to sell their products, and seeing Santa with a cigarette was just another example of how normalized smoking was in American culture. Today, the idea of Santa smoking around children seems absolutely insane, but during the 50s, it was just another day at the department store. If you sat on Santa's lap during this era, you probably have memories of that distinctive tobacco smell mixed with the scent of peppermint and department store perfume. Fact 5. Christmas cards featured atomic bombs. The 1950s was the height of atomic age optimism, and this even extended to Christmas cards. Families would send out holiday greetings featuring mushroom clouds, atomic symbols, and references to nuclear power. These cards weren't meant to be scary or threatening, but rather reflected the widespread belief that atomic energy was going to make life better and more modern. Christmas cards from this era featured images of Santa Claus riding atomic bombs, families celebrating under mushroom cloud-shaped Christmas trees, and wishes for an atomic-powered New Year. This seems absolutely bizarre today, but during the 50s, atomic power represented progress and the future. The US had just won World War II, partly thanks to atomic bombs, and the government was promoting the peaceful uses of atomic energy through programs like Atoms for Peace. People genuinely believed that atomic power would soon run their cars, heat their homes, and make electricity too cheap to meter. So naturally, this optimism spilled over into Christmas cards. Some cards featured jokes about atomic Christmas, like a cartoon Santa with a mushroom cloud coming out of his bag of toys, or a family gathered around a glowing atomic Christmas tree. Others were more straightforward, featuring atomic symbols mixed with traditional Christmas imagery like wreaths, bells, and stars. The Oak Ridge National National Laboratory, which had been instrumental in developing the atomic bomb, even produced official Christmas cards featuring atomic themes that employees could send to friends and family. Looking back at these cards now, they seem darkly ironic given what we know about nuclear weapons and radiation, but at the time, they were just another example of the space-age optimism that defined the decade. Fact 6. Tinsel was made with lead. If you decorated a Christmas tree during the 1950s, you probably handled lead tinsel without even knowing it. The shiny, silvery strands that were draped over every branch of every tree were often made with actual lead to give them weight and make them hang properly. This lead tinsel was manufactured primarily in Europe and imported to the United States, where it became a staple decoration in millions of homes. The lead content in tinsel made it perfect for draping because the strands would hang straight down rather than sticking out or clumping together like lighter materials. Families would spend hours carefully placing individual strands on their trees to achieve that perfect icicle effect. Kids were often recruited to help with this tedious task, which meant they were handling lead with their bare hands and then probably putting those same hands in their mouths or touching their faces. The real danger came when families with small children and pets had lead tinsel within easy reach. Toddlers would grab handfuls of the shiny stuff and put it in their mouths, and cats would bat it around and sometimes ingest it. Lead poisoning from tinsel was a real concern, though most people didn't know about it at the time. It wasn't until the 1970s that lead tinsel was finally banned in the United States after the dangers became more widely known. Modern tinsel is made from plastic or other safe materials, but it just doesn't have that same weight and shine that the old lead tinsel had. If you grew up draping lead strands over your family tree, you're probably lucky you didn't end up with lead poisoning from those years of Christmas decorating. Fact 7. You could mail your kids to grandma's house. This sounds absolutely insane, but during the early 1950s, the U.S. Postal Service would actually allow parents to mail their children to relatives as parcel post. The practice had started earlier in 1913 when parcel post service first began, but it continued into the early 50s before it was finally banned. Parents would literally take their kids to the post office, pay the postage based on weight, attach an address label, and hand them over to a mail carrier who would deliver them to their destination. This became especially popular around Christmas when families wanted to send children to visit grandparents or other relatives, but couldn't afford train tickets. A parcel post delivery was much cheaper than passenger train fare, and since mail carriers often traveled by train anyway, it seemed like a reasonable solution. The children would ride in the mail car with a postal worker keeping an eye on them, and they would be delivered right to the recipient's door just like any other package. There were official rules about this bizarre practice. Children had to weigh less than 50 pounds, couldn't be sent more than 500 miles, and had to be able to follow instructions. They also technically required insurance, which was a strange thing to think about. The Postal Service charged by weight, so a child might cost about 53 cents to mail depending on the distance. Some enterprising parents took advantage of this service multiple times, and there are documented cases of the same children being mailed back and forth between relatives several times a year. The practice was finally discontinued when postal regulations were updated to specifically prohibit sending human beings through the mail. But for a brief period, mailing your kids for Christmas was a legitimate and legal way to get them to grandma's house for the holidays. Fact 8. TV dinners were Christmas dinner. Christmas dinner in the 1950s wasn't always the elaborate home-cooked feast we imagine today. For many families, TV dinners were the height of modern convenience and were absolutely acceptable as a Christmas meal. Swanson introduced the first TV dinner in 1953, and by the mid-50s, they had become incredibly popular, especially during the busy holiday season when mothers were looking for shortcuts. The TV dinner came in an aluminum tray divided into compartments with turkey, cornbread stuffing, gravy, sweet potatoes, and peas. It looked like a complete traditional Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, just frozen and ready to heat up in the oven. For families in the 50s, this represented the ultimate in modern living. No more spending all day in the kitchen preparing a big meal when you could just pop these trays in the oven and have dinner ready in 25 minutes. Swanson specifically marketed TV dinners as perfect for Christmas, even creating special holiday-themed versions with extra turkey and festive packaging. The idea was that mom could spend more time with the family, watching TV or opening presents instead of of being stuck in the kitchen all day. Some families would set up TV trays in the living room and eat their Christmas TV dinners while watching holiday specials, which was considered the epitome of modern American life. The meals weren't particularly good by today's standards. The turkey was usually dry, the gravy was watery, and everything tasted vaguely metallic from the aluminum tray. But for 50s families, it represented progress and convenience. Kids today would probably refuse to eat a TV dinner for Christmas, but back then, it was just another example of how modern technology was making life easier. If your family had TV dinners for Christmas, you were actually pretty fashionable and forward-thinking. Fact 9. Rotating color wheels, lit up aluminum trees. Since you couldn't put electric lights on aluminum Christmas trees because of the electrocution risk, families had to get creative with how they illuminated them. Enter the rotating color wheel, one of the strangest and most hypnotic Christmas decorations of the 1950s. These wheels were essentially a motor-driven disc divided into colored sections, typically red, blue, green, and yellow, with a spotlight behind them. As the wheel rotated, it cast different colored lights on the aluminum tree, creating a constantly changing display. The color wheel would sit on the floor a few feet away from the tree, and you'd plug it in to watch it slowly rotate and transform your metallic tree into a psychedelic light show. The effect was mesmerizing, and kids would sit and watch the colors change for what seemed like hours. The aluminum branches would reflect the colored light throughout the room, creating an almost otherworldly atmosphere that was perfect for the space-age aesthetic of the decade. These color wheels were their own fire hazard because they had a powerful bulb that got extremely hot and a motor that could overheat if it ran too long. Families were supposed to turn them off when they left the house or went to bed, but many people just left them running all the time during the Christmas season. The wheels also made a low humming sound as they rotated, which became part of the ambient noise of Christmas for many families. Some wheels had multiple speeds, so you could make the colors change faster or slower depending on your preference. The faster setting was popular with kids who loved the rapid color changes, while adults often preferred the slower, more subtle rotation. If you had an aluminum tree and a color wheel in your house during the 50s, you were absolutely at the cutting edge of Christmas decorating, even if the whole setup looked like something from a science fiction movie. Fact 10. Christmas catalogs weighed more than phone books. The arrival of the Christmas catalog was a major event in households during the 1950s. Sears, Montgomery Ward, and other retailers would mail out massive catalogs that were hundreds of pages long and weighed several pounds. These weren't just regular catalogs either. They were the Christmas wish books, and for many kids, flipping through these pages was almost as exciting as Christmas morning itself. The Sears Christmas wish book could be over 500 pages long and featured everything from toys and games to appliances and furniture. Kids would spend hours poring over the toy section, carefully circling everything they wanted and making ranked lists for Santa. Parents would use the catalogs to do their Christmas shopping, either by mailing in order forms or visiting the local Sears store to purchase items in person. The catalog featured elaborate product photographs and detailed descriptions that made everything look absolutely amazing. These catalogs arrived in the mail sometime in October or early November, and families would fight over who got to look through them first. Kids would carry them around like precious treasures, showing friends their favorite pages and discussing which toys were the best. The toy section was organized by age and gender, with clear divisions between boys' toys and girls, toys that reflected the rigid gender roles of the time. Boys had pages of toy guns, cars, and building sets, while girls had pages of dolls, play kitchens, and toy appliances. The catalogs also served as a snapshot of American consumer culture during the 50s, featuring all the latest modern conveniences and fashions. You could see what the ideal American family was supposed to look like, what they should wear, and what products they needed to have the perfect modern home. When the catalog finally wore out from so much use, it might be saved to start fires in the fireplace, or used as emergency wrapping paper. Kids today have the internet to browse millions of products, but there was something special about getting that massive catalog in the mail and knowing that Christmas was coming. At Recollection Road, I believe preserving the past is incredibly important, and our friends at Legacy Box do too. So much so, they've offered my viewers a code for 55% off in today's digital age. Analog media like VHS tapes and film reels are fading, risking the loss of cherished memories due to things like mold dust and time, but Legacy Legacy Box, trusted by over 1.5 million families, offers a simple and safe solution to protect your memories before it's too late. With Legacy Box, you can convert your analog treasures into digital memories, effortlessly send your VHS tapes, camcorder tapes, and pictures to Legacy Box. And like magic, track your originals and digital copies for easy enjoyment, sharing, and organization. And here's the kicker: for a limited time, enjoy an exclusive 55% discount at legacybox.com. Recollection: don't let your memories fade, preserve your past. Today with Legacy Box, buy today to take advantage of this exclusive offer and send them in whenever you're ready. Go to legacybox.com, recollection to save 55% while supplies last. Fact 11. Cellophane was the wrapping paper of choice. Before the wide variety of printed wrapping papers we have today, cellophane was one of the most popular choices for wrapping Christmas gifts during the 1950s. This clear, crinkly plastic material came in solid colors like red, green, gold, and silver, and it had a distinctive crackling sound when you handled it. Wrapping presents in cellophane required a completely different technique than wrapping with paper, and it was both an art form and a frustration. Cellophane was originally developed in the early 1900s, but it became widely available for consumer use during the 40s and 50s. It was marketed as modern and sophisticated, a step up from traditional paper wrapping. The material was somewhat transparent, so you could often see the shape of the gift underneath, which added to the anticipation. Families would buy rolls of cellophane in different colors and use ribbon, bows, and other decorations to make their packages look festive. The problem with cellophane was that it was extremely difficult to work with. It was slippery, didn't fold neatly, and would split or tear if you weren't careful. Trying to get the edges to stay down with tape was an exercise in patience because the material would spring back and refuse to lie flat. Many people would wrap a gift in cellophane and then have to wrap it again in regular paper just to get it to stay together. The material also made a terrible mess because little pieces of torn cellophane would stick to everything with static electricity. Despite these challenges, cellophane wrapped presents under the tree looked absolutely beautiful, with their shiny, colorful appearance reflecting the Christmas lights. The crinkly texture added to the sensory experience of Christmas morning, and kids loved the sound it made when they tore into their presents. Some families would layer different colors of cellophane to create unique color combinations, or use clear cellophane over printed paper to add shine. If you wrapped presents with cellophane during the 50s, you probably have memories of fighting with that stubborn material and ending up with tiny pieces of plastic stuck all over your clothes. Fact 12. Everyone wanted a Davy Crockett coonskin cap. The Davy Crockett craze of the mid-1950s made the coonskin cap the most coveted Christmas gift of 1955. When Walt Disney's Davy Crockett miniseries aired on television, it sparked a nationwide phenomenon, with kids begging their parents for the iconic fur and tail caps worn by Fess Parker. Some caps used real raccoon fur, while cheaper versions used fake fur or dyed pelts. The demand was intense. Stores couldn't keep them in stock. Parents lined up for hours at department stores, hoping to get one of the few caps in each shipment. At the craze's height, over 10 million coonskin caps were sold, consuming a huge portion of the nation's raccoon pelts. Kids wore the caps everywhere, at school, church, the grocery store, and while playing at home. They were hot, uncomfortable, and likely not very sanitary, but none of that mattered because every kid wanted to be Davy Crockett. The fad spread to lunchboxes, toy rifles, pajamas, t-shirts, and more, all branded with the Frontier Hero's name. The craze faded quickly, as fads do, but for one magical Christmas season, coonskin caps were the ultimate prize. Parents who managed to get one were heroes, and kids who received them were the luckiest in the neighborhood, at least until the next big fad arrived. Fact 13. Outdoor Christmas lights were dangerous business. Decorating the outside of your house with Christmas lights in the 1950s was far more dangerous than it is today. The lights were large C7 or C9 bulbs that got extremely hot, often strung on cords not rated for outdoor use. Exposed wiring, indoor cords, and unprotected sockets made the setups a serious fire and electrocution hazard. Families climbed ladders, often on icy roofs, to string lights along eaves, windows, and outdoor trees. Moisture could easily get into the connections, and the large bulbs produced enough heat to melt snow and ice, adding to the risk. Despite the dangers, the light lights were beautiful. Large colored bulbs cast a warm, glowing light very different from modern LEDs. Bubble lights were used outdoors for their magical effect, even though they were intended for indoor use. Some homeowners created elaborate displays with spotlights, candles in windows, and homemade decorations plugged into outdoor outlets. Neighbors competed to have the most impressive display, and fathers would spend weekends in the cold stringing lights while mothers watched nervously. Electrical bills were high, but the effort was worth it. For children of the 50s, helping hang lights meant frozen fingers, near misses, and the unforgettable joy of seeing the entire display glow for the first time. Fact 14. Christmas corsages were a thing. One of the stranger Christmas traditions of the 1950s was the giving and wearing of Christmas corsages. These weren't for dances or weddings, but festive pin-on decorations women and girls wore on coats or dresses throughout the holiday season. Florists crafted them from pine boughs, holly, small ornaments, ribbons, and sometimes tiny bells or candy canes. Women wore Christmas corsages to parties, church services, shopping trips, and family gatherings. They became so popular that department stores and florists advertised special sales starting right after Thanksgiving. Some families even gave corsages as hostess gifts for holiday dinners. Pinned to a coat or dress, the corsages served as wearable holiday decorations that displayed festive spirit. Designs ranged from simple pine sprigs with red bows to elaborate miniature Christmas trees, complete with ornaments, tiny bells, pine cones, berries, or miniature Santas. Teenage girls often wore them to school, turning it into a competition over who had the most creative or elaborate corsage. The tradition faded by the 60s and 70s, likely because corsages shed needles, damaged clothing, and broke easily. But for a brief time in the 50s, Christmas corsages were a festive fashion trend. If your mother or grandmother wore them, you might remember helping pin them on and tidying up the trail of pine needles she left behind. Fact 15. Kids got cigarettes in their stockings. This might be the most shocking Christmas tradition to modern eyes, but in the 1950s, it was common for teenagers, and sometimes younger kids, to find cigarettes in their stockings. Smoking was deeply normalized in American culture, and parents didn't hesitate to give teens their first packs as a way of marking a coming-of-age milestone. Candy cigarettes were popular with younger children, but real tobacco cigarettes were given to teens, especially boys. Tobacco companies even marketed cigarettes as holiday gifts, with festive packaging and ads showing families exchanging cartons on Christmas morning. Santa Claus appeared in cigarette ads, and magazines suggested which brands made the best gifts. A teenage boy might wake up to find a carton of Lucky Strikes or Camels in his stocking, alongside razor blades or a new wallet. Parents saw smoking as a normal adult activity, and giving cigarettes was almost a rite of passage. Families would often gather after gift opening with parents and older teens smoking together while younger children played. Today, this tradition seems shocking, given what we know about smoking's dangers and laws restricting sales to minors. But before the Surgeon General's report, doctors appeared in cigarette ads, and smoking was portrayed as safe, sophisticated, and even healthy. Teens of the 50s often grew up expecting cigarettes in their stockings. Fact 16. Christmas Spam was a gourmet gift. In the 1950s, giving someone a canned ham or a tin of Spam for Christmas was considered thoughtful and even luxurious. Hormel created festive holiday packaging for Spam, marketing it as a premium gift, much like we give specialty food baskets today. Recipients were genuinely pleased to receive it. Although Spam was introduced in 1937, it gained popularity during World War II when fresh meat was rationed. By the 50s, it was firmly part of American cuisine, and Hormel promoted it as versatile, convenient, and even sophisticated. Holiday gift sets often included Spam, alongside deviled ham, Vienna sausages, and potted meats. For many families, a canned ham meant they could serve a proper holiday meal without the cost of a fresh ham. The meat could be stored indefinitely, heated quickly, and tasted good when prepared carefully. Spam became a breakfast favorite, with fried Spam and eggs often served on Christmas morning. Hormel even suggested special recipes for the holidays, such as brown brown sugar and pineapple glazed Spam, styled like a traditional ham. Ladies' magazines featured elaborate Spam dishes with decorative garnishes and festive presentation tips. Today, giving Spam might seem like a joke, but in the 50s, it was a practical, caring gift that families genuinely appreciated. Fact 17. Fruitcake was actually popular. Hard as it may be to believe today, fruitcake was genuinely popular during the 1950s. Families would bake or order fruitcakes weeks before Christmas, and receiving one as a gift was considered a treat. These dense, sweet cakes were packed with candied fruits, nuts, and often a generous splash of rum or brandy. Bakeries and mail-order companies thrived on fruitcake sales. The Collins Street Bakery in Texas became famous for shipping fruitcakes worldwide, with families ordering months in advance. Some cakes were so soaked in alcohol they required aging for weeks, often wrapped in brandy-soaked cheesecloth and stored in the pantry. Making fruitcake at home was labor-intensive, involving chopping fruits and nuts, mixing heavy batter, and baking for hours. Recipes were passed down through generations, and decorating with candied cherries, nuts, and a shiny glaze was a point of pride. Families served thin slices with coffee after Christmas dinner, and the cakes were often displayed on festive stands. The decline of fruitcake came with cheap, mass-produced versions, but a properly made 50s fruitcake with real butter, quality fruits, and careful aging was delicious. For those who experienced it, fruitcake was a cherished holiday tradition rather than a joke. Fact 18. Christmas windows at department stores were epic events. Department store Christmas window displays in the 1950s were spectacular productions that drew crowds downtown to marvel at elaborate scenes. Stores like Macy's, Marshall Field's, and Gimbel's spent months planning and building animated displays that told stories and created magical winter wonderlands behind their massive windows. Families often made special trips downtown just to see them, making the displays an essential part of the holiday season. These windows were far more than mannequins and tinsel. They featured intricate mechanical animations, professional set designs, and cutting-edge lighting effects. Some told complete stories across multiple windows, with moving characters powered by clockwork mechanisms and electric motors. Popular themes included Santa's workshop, skating bears, dancing snowmen, and fairy tale recreations. The unveiling of the windows was a major event, covered in newspapers and local TV, drawing thousands of visitors. Families dressed in their best clothes and strolled from store to store. Kids pressed against the glass, mesmerized by glittering, moving figures. Stores competed fiercely, hiring designers and engineers to create displays with hundreds of moving parts, synchronized lights, and even sound. While they advertised merchandise, the windows were also gifts to the community, spreading Christmas magic. For children of the 50s, seeing these windows was as thrilling as Christmas morning itself. Fact 19. Everyone had a poots under their tree. If you grew up in certain parts of the country during the 1950s, especially in areas with large German or Pennsylvania Dutch populations, you probably had a putz under your Christmas tree. A putz was an elaborate miniature village or nativity scene arranged on the floor around the tree. The word comes from the German putzen, meaning to decorate, and creating a putz was often a serious family project. These displays were far more than a few figurines on cotton batting. A proper putz could take up half the living room floor and include dozens or hundreds of pieces. Families created landscapes with moss, rocks, mirrors for ponds, and miniature trees and buildings, all arranged to tell a story. The nativity scene was typically the centerpiece, surrounded by villages, farms, churches, animals, and villagers going about daily life. Many families added to their putts each year, expanding the scene with electric trains, working water wheels, and tiny lights glowing in buildings. The displays often told stories, with shepherds, wise men, and villagers all moving through the scene. Particularly popular in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and the Midwest, putzes were a point of pride and drew visiting neighbors. Setting one up was a labor of love, leaving memories of careful unpacking and the excitement of watching the miniature world come to life. Fact 20. Christmas clubs helped families save all year. One of the most practical Christmas traditions of the 1950s was the Christmas Club savings account offered by banks and credit unions across the country. These accounts help families save money throughout the year, specifically for holiday expenses. By making small weekly deposits that accumulated and were distributed just before Christmas. For many, the arrival of the Christmas Club check in early November made the difference between a modest holiday and a memorable one. The process was simple. Families signed up at their bank, chose a weekly deposit, often $1, $2, or $5, and recorded each payment in a passbook or received a stamp. Some employers even offered payroll deductions, so the savings happened automatically. Banks encouraged consistent saving by restricting withdrawals. Until November, early withdrawals could forfeit interest, helping families resist spending the money elsewhere. When the check arrived, it often amounted to several $100s, a significant sum in the 50s, used for toys, decorations, Christmas dinner, and travel to visit relatives. Banks promoted Christmas clubs heavily, showing happy families enjoying the fruits of their disciplined saving. By the mid-50s, millions of Americans participated. While the tradition has largely disappeared, the excitement of receiving that Christmas club check remains a cherished memory for those who lived through it. Christmas in the 1950s blended traditional holiday celebrations with post-war optimism, new consumer products, and a distinctly American style. From lead and asbestos decorations to the simple joy of flipping through a massive catalog or watching an aluminum tree glow under a rotating light wheel, the season had a character all its own. Some traditions, like Christmas clubs or elaborate department store windows, were practical or beautiful, while others, like giving children cigarettes or decorating with lead tinsel, seem shocking today. Looking back, it's striking how much has changed and how much has stayed the same. Families still gather, exchange gifts, and decorate trees, though the products and practices have evolved. The 50s introduced holiday specials on television, and the emphasis on picture-perfect moments, shaping traditions that continue today. Memories of shiny aluminum trees, bubble lights, and the excitement of the Sears catalog capture a Christmas uniquely of its decade.